were going to have it at PGA West. And all of a sudden they realized, because of the time frame of television, that they couldn't do it on the West Coast. It had to be an East Coast event, so therefore all of a sudden here comes Kiowa.
Kiowa was always going to be slightly hostile because the Americans were really up for winning the Ryder Cup. I still felt we were going to win. Seve was still playing great, Olazabal was playing well. Ian Woosnam was world's number 1 and Nick Faldo was world's number 2.
Thursday night was a total disaster when we drove in for the ceremony. That's where we had the 3 limos crash together. 3 different people were hurt. Pate by far the worst. Pate was my best player. I mean, he never shot a practice round higher than 67. I think we could have won, I'm going to say 18-10, maybe 17-11 if I hadn't had the limo wrecks. It's like on the first tee, there was a guy that wore the Union Jack standing beside a guy that had the Spanish flag. And they had introduced the Europeans, and these guys would yell and hoot and scream and then quiet down. And then introduced the Americans, and these guys would clap, and they weren't as exuberant, but it was in good fun. So then I read all this stuff about, oh, how unruly it was and this, and I think that's a bunch of bunk. I was very proud of what happened down there, and they cared, and they've cared ever since. I kept thinking that we'd be all right. You know, the pressure was Saturday night. Well, you know, we could actually lose this. If Jack can lose on his own golf course, anybody can lose on any course over here. All of a sudden, we weren't safe. We weren't as safe as we thought we were. But it came down to the wire for sure. When the Ryder Cup comes along and you've been selected to play for your country, it is a hell of a lot bigger thing than playing just for yourself. I mean, it's as good as it gets.
Corey Pavin, Paul Azinger, Chip Beck, Fred Couples and Lanny Watkins all delivered last day wins for Stockton.
Lanny's match ended, you know, and they came up with the 2 of them.
Now Hale Irwin and Bernard Langer were playing for the cup.
I was 2 down with 4 to go, and I made 3 very good putts on 15, 16 and 17 to bring the match to even and actually having a chance to maybe winning it on the last.
The Ryder Cup has produced more than its fair share of drama over the years, but this finish had been as tense as it comes.
Being there, the television makes it look like it's pretty light, but it was pretty darn dark. And Longer gave him a pretty long putt for 5. I mean, I don't know what it was. I mean, it was like that or something. I mean, it wasn't any gimme.
Where would the cup end up? It all depended on this putt.
He had 6 or 7 foot putt across the green, and I told my teammates, this putt will break from the back to the front more than you think. It was one of those times you didn't want to see anybody have to face, and it was almost a sad time. But you know, I say of all the players in the world that could have handled that, very few could have handled it as well as he did.
If I'd made that, we would have halved the match and kept the trophy since we won it 2 years before. I felt bad for them that I couldn't make the putt, but I gave it my best, and that's all I can do, and that's all anybody can ask of me.
He misses it, and everybody goes nuts, and Payne Stewart's pouring champagne over my head, and, you know, everybody's just going berserk.
It was a great match, and it was a part of history, and sometimes you've got to put up your hands and say, you know, Americans have won. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
Bernard Langer came into the team trailer and broke down completely. And Seve had to console him, and they were both crying in each other's arms for a number of minutes. And I was sitting in the corner, a new boy to all this, if you like, a bit of a rookie, and thought, my God, this is what this is all about.
I thought the Europeans in defeat were probably as classy a group as I'd ever seen, and I think they did a much better job handling it than we would have, no question about it. They had 2 buses for us to go to the closing ceremony. And Woozy said, we're getting on one bus. We don't need two buses. And he picks up Pavin in his arms and carries him down the center of this bus, right? Well, Woozy's not very tall, and people are ducking to get out of the way, and he's just carrying Pavin straight through the bus. You know, we ride the same bus. One guy had to stand up, so what? I mean, we rode as two teams that, you know, were friends. I only get one suit that fit, one coat that fit, my blue coat. They throw me in the ocean with it. I dragged Pavin in with me, and we hadn't had the Cup back in 6 years. But it was just a really touching moment.
It's probably the most nerve-wracking golf event for a professional to play in, especially a captain, because a captain, you can't do anything. You just make the teams, send them out to play, and that's about it.
America had lost and drawn matches at the Belfry, but it would prove to be third time lucky for them when they came to the Midlands in 1993.
As a player, you're playing for your country, you're playing for your teammates. There's a lot more pressure playing that way than just playing for yourself.
This time it was the Europeans feeling the pressure, and it was left to Davis Love III to sink the match-winning putt. America had finally won at the Belfry.
That week was as pressure-packed as any week I've ever spent in professional golf, being the captain. You could see it in my players' faces, what a relief it was that night. Nobody stayed up and partied. I was the last person to bed. It was about 12:30, and everybody else was asleep. It was great being captain and being able to be a part of it like that. I'd like to be captain again.